going to read you one of my favourite childhood stories called The Twits by Roald Dahl. It's a bit gruesome, it's a bit gory, it's lovely, and it's got wonderful rhythm and rhyme. Now, I will try my best to do all the voices well, and I hope I don't speak too quickly for all of you. But let us begin. So, Chapter 1. Hairy Faces. What a lot of hairy-faced men around these days. When a man grows hair all over his face, it is impossible to tell what he really looks like. Perhaps that's why he does it. He'd rather he didn't know. And then there's washing. When the very hairy ones wash their face, it must be a rather big job, like washing the hair on your head. So what I want to know is how often do these hairy-faced men wash their faces? Is it only once a week, like us? On Sunday nights? And do they shampoo it? Do they use a hairdryer? Do they rub tonic into their faces to stop them going bald? Do they go to the barber to have their fairy faces cut? Or do they trim it in front of the mirror with teeny-weeny little scissors? I don't know. But the next time you see a man with a hairy face, which is probably not too soon, maybe you will look at him differently and closely and start wondering about these things. Chapter 2. Mr. Twit. Mr. Twit was one of these very, very hairy-faced individuals. The whole of his face, except for his forehead, his eyes and his nose, were covered in thick hair. The stuff even sprouted in revolting tufts out of his nostrils and his ear holes. Mr. Twit felt that his hairiness made him look terrifically wise and grand. But in truth, he was neither of these things. Mr. Twit was a twit. He was born a twit, and now, at the age of 60, he was an even bigger twit than ever. The hair on Mr. Twit's face didn't grow smooth and matted, as it does with most hairy men. It grew in spikes that stuck out like bristles of a nail brush. And how often did Mr. Twit wash his nail brush face of his? The answer is never. Not even on Sundays. He hadn't washed it for years. Chapter 3. Dirty Beards. As you know, an ordinary unhairy face, like yours, but not mine, simply gets a bit smudgy if it is not washed often enough. And there is nothing so awful about that. But a hairy face is a very different matter. Things cling to hairs, especially food. Things like gravy go right in amongst the hairs and they stay there. You can wipe your smooth face with the flannel and quickly look more or less all right again. But hairy men cannot do that. We can also, if we are careful, eat our meals without spreading food all over our faces. But not so with hairy men. Watch carefully next time you see a hairy man eating his lunch, and you will notice that even if he opens his mouth super wide, it is still impossible for him to get a spoonful of beef stew or ice cream and chocolate sauce into his mouth without leaving it all over his hair. Mr. Twit didn't bother even to open his mouth wide when he ate. As a result, and because he never washed, there was always hundreds of bits of old breakfasts and lunches and suppers sticking to the hairs around his face. There weren't big bits, mind you, because he could wipe those off, but on his sleeve while he was eating, But if you look closely, not that you ever want to, you would see little tiny specks of dried up scrambled eggs stuck to the hair, spinach, tomato ketchup, fish fingers, minced chicken livers, and all of the other disgusting things Mr. Twit liked to eat. If you looked closer still, hold your nose, ladies and gentlemen, if you peered deep into the moustachy bristles sticking out of his upper lip, you would probably see much larger objects that escaped the wipe of the hand. Things that had been there for months and months, like a piece of maggoty green cheese, or a mouldy old cornflake, or even a slimy trail of tin sardines. Ugh. Because all of this, Mr. Twit never really went hungry. By sticking out his tongue and curling it up sideways to explore the hairy jungle around his mouth, he was always able to find a tasty morsel to nibble on. What I am trying to tell you is that Mr. Twit was a foul, smelly old man. And he was also an extremely horrible old man. And to find out why, I shall tell you in our next chapter. Goodbye everyone, and see you tomorrow.